Good morning, everybody. Day 37 of our time of fasting and prayer. This morning's devotion will be coming from the book of First Kings. I'm going to be reading chapter 11. I'm going to read verse 9 and verse 10. It's a bigger context which I'm going to come back to explain to you the entire context. But this is what verse 9 and 11 says. Now the Lord was angry with Solomon because his heart has turned from the Lord and the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice, and had commanded him concerning these things, that he should not go after other gods, but he did not observe what the Lord had commanded. Now, the story goes forth in First Kings chapter 11. It's a very interesting story. Let me refresh your memory as it relates to Solomon. Solomon, we know, is the son of David, the king of Israel. And when he was enthroned, the Lord appeared to him and asked him, ask me for anything and I will give to you. And Solomon asked for wisdom, and the Lord gave him wisdom. And we know him to be the wisest man that ever lived after except for the Lord Jesus Christ. And Solomon was extremely wise. He wrote the book of Proverbs. We know that very beautiful book. But when he became old and got old, some things started happening to Solomon. Solomon was pulled away because of the love of women. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines. That's a lot. And we're told in this narrative, chapter 11, that Solomon loved many foreign women. And what did he do? He began to marry them. And the more he married them, the more he began to build altars for them. They began to worship their God, even in Jerusalem. And they began to build the gods of the Edomites, the gods of the Amorites, those gods that God forbade the people of Israel not to even worship, not to associate with. But Solomon, in his wisdom, did not understand the truth of God, did not understand or follow the boundary that God has set. Now, as we look at that narrative, we've got to ask ourselves, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? Again, what it means to you is the notion that even as you, as a believer in Jesus Christ, wise in the truth of God, it is always important for you to stick with the commandments of God, to obey that which the Lord has instructed us to obey. It is possible to be wise in terms of spiritual discernment, but it's also possible, on the other hand, to live a disobedient life. God is more concerned about obedience. God said to us through the prophet Samuel, when Samuel came to King Saul, he said obedience is better than sacrifice. You see, the sin of insubordination, God said, is like witchcraft. And I think it's important for us to understand that God is more concerned about obedience. So this morning, you might be wise in terms of spiritual discernment. You might be wise even in terms of the knowledge of the Bible. But the key thing is this: are you obeying that which you know to be true? Or are you being driven? Are you being carried away by this world's appeal? Understand. Solomon, I believe, later realized, vanity of vanity, says the preacher, everything was vanity. He writes in the book of Ecclesiastes. I believe it's when he has reflected, all over these things, and he came to the understanding that, no matter how much I get in terms of this material possession, all of them is vanity. What truly matters is obeying the commandments of God and doing what is right. And this morning, my brothers and sisters, I'm appealing to you, obey God. I tell you what, obedience is tough, but obedience is rewarding. It's in obedience that we find true meaning in life. It's in surrendering to God that we discover who we truly are. Now you do that and see how God is going to bless your life. God bless you. God keep you. I'll see you tomorrow.